all my life, Satan tried to get me. Walking my shoes, devil trying to fit me. But he don't know I got the power, 50. Nah, he don't know I got the power. All my life, Satan tried to get me. Walking my shoes, devil trying to fit me. But he don't know I got the power, 50. Nah, he don't know I walk in power, 50. Let me have a seat.
Good evening. It's your man, Brian H. Rap Williams at the End of the Bench Media. Thank you for tuning in again. Once again, it's on. It is Tuesday. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Hello, good everything. Thank you for tuning in. If you are tuning in on YouTube, please hit that button, that like button, that share button. Tell a friend to tune in. This is the End of the Bench Media. I am Brian D. Williams, H. Rap B, publicly known as. I am here to spread information to uplift the community. This is why the program is called Build and Destroy. While I attempt to build up the community, destroy the lies and the propaganda that surround our community. I am multitasking right now, doing something I should have done earlier today, but I haven't. So I'm doing it now. Thank you for tuning in. This is an opportunity for me to disseminate information that I deem worthy of repeating, worthy of informing our community and putting people in a better mental space so we can do a better community, a stronger community, a more fit community. Thank you for tuning in again. Today is called Do We Want More? Do We Want More is going along with this theme that I have with my favorite music albums and some of the titles, and it goes right into what we're talking about. Last week, 7 days ago, was the second day of the Democratic National Convention. The Democratic National Convention was to determine who was the Democratic Party's nominated person to run for president. You have Walz and you have Vice President, Governor Walz and Vice President Harris, who will be the representative of the Democratic Party. This is something that a lot of people go, I really don't engage in politics. Well, if you're a working class individual in these United States, I do believe you need to engage in politics, because what I want you to understand is this. I am 54 years old. I am 54, born in 1970. That means 54 years ago, I was here, and I am part of the very first generation that had the full capacity of the United States Constitution working in my favor. The very first generation. Think about that. Only 54 years. The country is 240 something odd years, almost 250 years old. And guess what? I am part of the very first generation that had the full capabilities and full protection of the United States Constitution. Now, here I am 54 years later. I don't have the same rights that I've had when I was born. What I want you to understand is this. When you are living in an institution like the United States of America is a corporation, and we are living on a crime scene, and I will continue to say that we are living in the place, every place that you live in this country is more than likely somebody died to have this property sitting here. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it real. I'm going to be genuine and honest, and it may sound hyperbolic or it may sound vitriolic, but that's what it is. So when you're living in an institution like this, you must also understand, just like at work, you need to follow all the rules and understand the rules. If you're in the union, you need to read the union book from front to back. You need to read the employee handbook and all the addendums from front to back. That way, if you run into a situation to whereas you have a disruptive supervisor, department manager, or even manager, or what have you, a person who you're subordinate to, if they are operating from a dishonest position, you can always cover yourself. And that's what I intend to do on a weekly basis here. I want to give you information that is useful to you, so you can use that information, so you won't have to succumb to the wicked people who are in high positions in the United States of America, or the corporations who run the people who are in high positions that we're not paying attention to. It's the reason someone can enter Congress as a thousandaire and leave a multimillionaire. Some people come in with affluence, maybe worth $2, $3, $10 million, and now they're worth $200 million. Do the research, it is all public knowledge. There's a problem that if I worked at Reuters when I did, if I worked on Wall Street, which I never have, and I use the information that I have to secretly invest, they call that insider trading. But Simultaneously, if someone in Congress is writing a law that will uplift one company or make another company lose, I can invest in a company that is going to be on the come up. I can make millions and millions of dollars, and that is not illegal. That's a problem. So if you don't engage in the rules of the country, you will succumb to the wicked people that are in the country or who are in high places. Some of these big people are elected officials, and they should be doing what you want them to do. But the question I have is this: what have you asked them to do? See, it's easy to fall victim to the rhetoric. You can listen to someone like me who you may trust. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. You should do research on every single solitary thing that I say, because I may be wrong. I'm not intentionally misleading you, but I may misspeak or you may misunderstand. And if you look it up yourself, you'll have a better understanding of what I'm saying. Sometimes I may use terminology that you're not familiar with, and you may be misled. That is not my intention, but it does happen. But what I want you to do is this: I need you to engage in political activities the way we engage in everything else in the world. We cannot make complaints about things that we have no or limited knowledge about. We cannot complain that the Democratic Party hasn't done anything. And all you have to do is ask yourself, think about your 10 closest people in your life. Have you ever had a conversation and said, hey, this is what's wrong with my community. This is what we need to improve. And then take action to do it. Again, I've said this once and I'll say it every chance I get. Institutions are not defeated by individual. They're defeated. They're defeated by organization and organizations. You do not have the Civil Rights Act of 1965 without people like the great Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and the organizations that they upheld, uplifted, and created. This is what we have to do. Just because you vote for someone does not mean that they'll do anything. It has no bearing on what they will and will not do. You've heard the terminology, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. The election day is literally the equivalent of you going to work tomorrow, walking up to the elevator and pushing the button. If the door's open and you don't get on, you don't go to your desk. You never get to your desk. And if you are a person who is not participating in the political process, if you're just voting and walking away, then guess what? You will never get what you want. And you're not voting. If you are of age, you're not voting for yourself anymore. You're voting for your grandchildren. You're voting for, and at the age that I am, I'm at the age where I'm not voting for myself. I'm voting for my elders, and I'm voting for my children and my grandchildren. Because what is going to be. But guess what? At some point, I'm going to be an elder in which my son and potentially his children and my daughter and her children and anybody who I care for and their children, they're going to have to take care of us in regards to electoral situations. This is why you must engage. If you think it's not important, it won't be important. But please understand that closes the door for you to complain about anything, because not only am I giving you information, I'm giving you the means to research things that I'm saying. And if you research those things at that point, you can galvanize your team of people and understand some of the things that I've said. I've actually had conversations with elected officials. And I've said this time and time again, I got this directly from an elected official. Black people put me in office, but it was this group of white women who bothered me every time I made a public appearance. And I had to do what they were asking. And it was not advantageous to the people who elected me to office. Meaning, if you say nothing and they say everything and they didn't vote for me, guess what? If you have a Republican state representative, he must do what you say. Civil, which is short for civilian servant. If you're a civilian and you vote, and you're registered and you live in that area, he or she or they must do what you say. And that's just the bottom line, point blank, period, end of story. And we move forward. But if we just sit back and wait and hope and dream, nothing ever happens in your favor. If you sit at the dinner table, or if you go to a restaurant and sit there and no one, and they say, hey, do you want something? I'm here, so you should know I want something to eat. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. If you don't say anything, you will not eat. You must open your mouth. You must take action, and then action will happen. And then guess what? You may get something done. But if you don't know that you need after school funding, you don't know you need preschool funding, you don't know you need academic materials in your schools, which could be software, which could be computers, which could be instructors, which could be assistants to instructors, which could be quality instructors. If you're not engaged, you don't get anything. I don't want to hear the nonsense about they don't and they should know because they don't care. People don't care about working class people in this country because working class people are literally at the bottom of the food chain. And I don't care who's at the bottom because guess what? I'm at the top. How often let's just be honest, how often does the average, I'm not talking about the individual, the average American, even if you want to include yourself, how many of your friends walk past people who are without homes, without food, and offer to buy them something to eat because you're worried about yourself? And that's what rich and powerful people do. They worry about themselves. So if you're disappointed in the Nancy Pelosi's and the Vice President Harris's and the Governor Walsh's and the Governor Pritzker's here and any other governor, a governor or elected official throughout the United States of America, and they're not doing their job. They're not doing their job because you haven't told them what to do. And guess what? I'm gonna ask you this: if you had the opportunity to get a job paying more than you ever thought it would pay, and that will pay you into perpetuity, like in the state of Illinois, all you have to do is be elected twice, and you get a pension. If you're an elected official here in the state of Illinois, you're set for life. And guess what? If you can write on your resume, former governor, former state representative, former city councilman, former whatever, and you'll get more money than you ever dreamed of, and you didn't have to work, would you work? Well, I'll do it because I know why haven't you run for office? But what we need to do is tap in and understand we are at this point, especially my community, the Black community, we are all pawns in the game. And at this point, at some point, you are going to have to say, I am tired of being a pawn in this game. I must get together with a group of people that look like me, who have children who are more than likely going to play with my children. And we need to get together and say, we need this, and we are going to do this, and this is how we need this fixed. The sad part is working class people from border to border and coast to coast, they traditionally have the same problems, lack thereof. There's a lot of crime in your community. Crime is induced by lack. The love of money does not make crime. The lack of money induces people into a criminal element. If you disagree with me, look at the young men and women are out here doing these nefarious activities. They are not trying to get money just to have money. Now, some of them are. Some people, look, let's just be honest. Some people are criminal. They have a criminal mindset. They are that, but that's not many. And guess what? If you gave a young person or a middle-aged person or an older person or whoever who's outside doing nefarious activities, if you gave them the opportunity to earn money, they would. In most cases, they don't have that opportunity. If you put most people in great situations, they'll turn out and make great decisions. But when you put people in survival mode and you living in a situation to whereas it is a hopeless, or in your purview, it is a hopeless situation, you are going to make hopeless decisions. And that's just the bottom line. People, we don't, oh, well, everything is up to you. And yeah. That sounds great. Guess what? If you're a spiritual person, go back to the very beginning of that book you read, and there was this couple who were in paradise, and one of them made the wrong decision. So yeah, there are situations to whereas people could be in a perfect situation, but by and large, even throughout that book, even throughout your life, when given a good opportunity, most people seize the opportunity and move forward. Now, when you're in survival mode, I'm not gonna blame you. I'm not gonna wag my finger and throw shame at you for doing what you perceive is what you have to do. Because in this day and age, or at any point in time, in any point in history, most people don't want to share because they fear of being in lack themselves. But guess what? There are literally trillions of dollars on the line every single solitary day. I mean, every single solitary year we on Earth, and we spend at least $1.5 trillion. That's 1,000 billions. Listen how ridiculous that sounds. But we don't invest in ourselves because we're too busy trying to outdo each other. We're in a competition with the entire world. We are we are in a competition with the entire world. Black folks who live in America, black folks who live on the continent, black folks who live on the planet. Let's Everybody's in this competition. You know, to quote the great Dr. Claude Anderson, that is what he terms racism. It is a race for resources, power, and finances. Period. That's how it goes. But if we're going to do that, what we have to do is get involved, get engaged. This is why at this point of the game of life, we are pawns in the game of life. And at some point, we're going to have to stop being pawns in this game. Because if we don't stop being pawns, we will go right back to where we were 161 years ago. 161 years ago, Emancipation Proclamation was signed January, and it was ratified January 1864. 161 years ago. Now, what I want you to understand is this. Well, ratified 160 years, signed 161 years ago. But what I want you to understand is this. It's always time. It's always time for us to get in order. And it does not take this massive effort. What I want you also to understand is this. Just because everybody isn't on the same page as you, if everybody is in the book, then some people are on chapter 5. If it's a 60 chapter book, some people on chapter 5. Some people on chapter 1. Some people on their way home with the book in their hand. As long as you're a part of the book, we can move and move forward and make gains. But if we are not trying to be the top of the food chain, then we are totally wasting our entire time. We can no longer afford to say if and when and they should and we should, and it ain't never gonna happen, because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe something is never going to happen, it isn't going to happen, because you're not going to get up. You're not going to work hard. You're not going to try to come up with a different plan or a different course of action, or you're not going to do anything, because it's not going to happen. But if you assume that it will happen, you will immediately start thinking about ways to make it happen, and then you will take action. And if you take action, even if you perceive it as a failure, you've moved forward. If you say, I need to raise $350 million, if you get $350, you are further ahead than you were when you started. So at that point, you start thinking about how to make 3,500, and then how to make 35,000. Then you how to make 350,000, then 3.5 million, and then you had $350 million before you know it. These are the things that our community, working class, and especially my community, Black community, we need to start taking action and moving forward to do. We can no longer sit back and wait for Vice President Harris or Vice President Al Gore or Vice President Kane or Vice President Mondale or Vice President Bush or any other president or vice president in history of the United States of America to do anything for us, because they have shown us over the last 161 years, if you don't organize, if you don't move forward and push forward, you won't get anything. And again, if you think things are impossible, explain to me how I'm online talking to you about how to uplift yourself, and then we got 56 years ago, it was this guy by the name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was 60 years ago, it was this guy by the name of Malcolm X, who were both murdered, saying pretty much the same thing that I'm saying. And people thought Dr. King was crazy. They thought he was a rebel rouser. Black people who got up and worked every day. I'm not talking about white folks. I'm not talking about the biggest of the world, the oppressors of the world, and the colonizers of the world. I'm talking about the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., everybody's favorite Black man in the history of the world. Everybody like to make a top 5 list. Dr. King could be on everybody's top 5. And most Black people in that time. And guess what? I knew it to be fact. But the beauty in social media is Bernice King, the child of the great Dr. Martin Luther King, said this to me. Most people didn't even like my father, so it gets on my nerves on his birthday how people try to celebrate him. That's a quote from his daughter. Direct to your boy. Shout out to Bernice King. She's a wonderful person. She's on Instagram. She's on Twitter. She don't play no games. Don't go on there and say nothing sideways to her because she's coming back at you the same way. But back to the point. Most people didn't like our ancestor, the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Most people didn't like the great Malcolm X, but we idolized them and we put them on these pedestals. But guess what? We are not living out the dreams in which they died for. They were murdered. They were murdered. Some people say they were murdered by the United States federal government. We'll never know. But they were murdered because they stood up for you and I. So if they stood up for you and I, why don't we continue their missions to make you a better, make a better life for you and I. But again, if you think because, oh man, it's only one of me. No, you probably have a significant other. You probably have siblings. You probably have cousins. You probably have nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles. If you do, you can have conversation with these people. And let's not be single issue conversation havers. You might be a Christian. Your cousin might be a Muslim. But guess what? His name is Muhammad now. Your name is still Williams. And that's my last name. His name might be Muhammad or Houdin. Got a cousin last name Houdin. Or your name might still be Williams. But you still, the grand scheme of things is George and Maddie Mae, Richard and Dolores. That is my lineage. We're trying to make the people who are biologically connected to them and socially connected to them, we want their lives to be better. That's the goal for both of us. So, well, you pray this way and I pray that way, it doesn't make a difference. Are we trying to make our families greater? Are we trying to make our significant others and their families' lives better? Are we trying to make our cousins' lives better? Are we trying to make our friends' lives better? I got friends all over this country. I got people who support me all over the world. Shout out to the people in Europe. Shout out to the people in Africa that support me. And shout out to my man in South America. That's only one dude that I definitely know, but there's a dude in South America that I talk to on Twitter too, and he listens on a regular basis as well. Salute to him. Salute to the people in the chat room too, and the people in the background who are watching. Thank you very much. But what I want you to understand is this. You don't need 100 million people. If 60% of the Black community didn't like the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., if 65% of the people didn't like the great El Malik Shabazz, aka Malcolm X, aka Malcolm Little, how were they able to get things accomplished? If 60% of the population didn't like them, do you understand it does not take a lot to win this game? All you have to do is create an entity, create a conversation. That creates an entity. And if you continue to have that conversation, you continue to move forward. If you continue to move forward, then you start to advance things. I woke up this morning, give you a perfect example. I woke up this morning with this many subscribers to this station. I put out something early this morning, and guess what happened? I picked up 20 new subscribers to this network. Shout out to the new subscribers with just one post. That means 20 people who were not watching, who were not going to watch yesterday, will be watching today. Shout out to those new people, and I really appreciate you. But this is what I'm saying. If I can do this 20 people at a time, another block of 20, another block of 20, another block of 40, another block of 80, 100, so forth and so on, we win because at that point, it is creating conversations, and that those conversations should create action. And if those create action, and then at that point, our boat lifts a little higher. We can no longer be pawns in the game. And that's my primary point. Being a pawn gets you killed. We are no longer going to play checkers. We're not going to play checkers, and we're not going to be the pawns anymore, because what we have to do is establish what we need. And then I learned this from the great, out of New Jersey, the great Dr. Buster DeSoris. Buster DeSoris. Yeah. He out of New Jersey. He's a pastor. He's a former elected official. He got things moving. I read his books. I watched his game plan, and that's what we're going to implement here. All we have to do is stop figuring out what we cannot do and figuring out ways to do things. For example, the coolest thing in the world is in America right now is to believe in this political cycle. Oh man, the polls say. Well, polls don't shape. They do not tell you. See, the polls say this, and this is what America is. No, it does not show you what's going on in America, because again, I've been an adult for 36 years, legally an adult for 36 years. 36 years. I've never had anybody ask me anything in regards to a poll. I've actually signed up for polls and nobody ever called me, nobody emails me any of those things. So if polls are the pulse of the country, and I don't even know anybody who's been a part of a poll, and maybe you do, but I doubt it. So who are these people talking to? They're not talking to you and I. So if they're not talking to you and I, then who are they talking to? Is it that polls show you the pulse of America, or are polls telling America what's going on? I think it's the latter of the two. Polls are put out there so you will think a specific thing and then you act on what the powers that be told you. That's what a poll is for at this point, at this junction, because I don't even know anybody who's participated in those things. So if that's the chess match right there, I'm gonna tell you what to do, and then you're going to react. But see, if you're playing chess, you make a move because I'm gonna make this move, and then it's gonna be 4 moves made this way, and then that'll leave this wide open. And that's what we need to start thinking like. Look, I I don't even know about Governor Walz, but for what I understand, he picked up a lot of principles of the Black Panther Party self-defense. Want to name one, he started feeding children early in the morning. That's why when you feed people in the morning, their mind gets solid. If your mind is solid, you can focus academically. If you focus academically, you'll enhance your mind, you'll take action. You take action and you get out of a bad situation, right? That's the way it's supposed to be. But if you are starving and your whole mentality is I'm hungry, I'm not focused, you're not going to learn anything. So we can be single issue voters if we like. I don't agree with abortion. Don't get one. I don't agree with the LGBTQIE community. Don't kiss the same gender. I'm not with all this transgender stuff. Well, okay, well, stay who you are. See, if you mind the business that feeds you and pays you, then guess what? You don't have to worry about anything. Well, what about my children? Well, guess what? I grew up in the hood. I knew some alcoholics. I knew some drug addicts. I knew some people who use heroin. I knew some people who use cocaine. I know some people. One of my homeboys who is expecting me right after this program. Shout out to my man Macy. I know he watching. He expected me to come to his crib. Man, he smoked marijuana all the time. So, but guess what? I don't smoke marijuana. And guess what? As much as I love beer, I haven't had but one beer in 2024, which is insane. I'm gonna get one day though. I'm gonna tell you that. But this is what I'm trying to get you to understand. If we don't set up things are not gonna happen. Oh man, what okay, you don't like those things about the Democratic Party. Well, what do you want them to do? See, it's easy for me as the analogy that I used last week. It's easy for me being this guy to walk up to you and say, well, this isn't gonna happen. They didn't do this and they didn't do this for you. And if you never ask the question, so what are you gonna do? Then you're a fool. And that's what the other parties in the United States of America are banking on. They are banking on your anger, your frustration, and your inability to hold the Democratic Party accountable for their lack thereof. And then they never have to promise you anything. And that's just the way it is. They're going to continue to do that because people in my community, we traditionally say, well, it ain't nothing going to happen. You're right. You're right. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because if you continue to say nothing's going to happen, that's exactly what's going to happen. Nothing. Because you're not asking for anything. I'm disappointed in the Democratic Party. They didn't give us this. And then you grab hold to reparations. Well, guess what? You can't even begin to talk reparations. It is 420 people in the House of Representatives. You don't have 300 and if you don't have 321 of those people on your side, it's not even gonna get out the House of Representatives. If you don't have 60 people in the Senate, you're not gonna get anything. But you know what? You only focus on the president, and they know it. They know it. They understand it. You don't understand the midterms. You don't understand that every senator is in office for 6 years. Most people in the House of Representatives are in the House in office for 2 years. So you're not even prepared to vote every other November or every November. You need to have a mayor on your team. And guess what? You don't even understand how this whole political thing works. Again, to go back to Dr. Claude Anderson, it's a race. Racism is about power, resources, and money. Okay. Now, you believe that you don't need to support each other. Who you buying your chicken wings from? Who you buying? Who doing your hair? Who's fixing your vehicle? It's probably somebody that looks just like you in most cases. In most cases, somebody who looks just like you. We have an abundance of resources right at our tips. But what we won't do is share those resources. You won't share that you got a cool mechanic who give you a good price because I don't want him to be working on your car when my car needs something. And things of that nature. Who cutting your hair? See, we focus on the wrong things. We need to be focusing on talking to a person from the House of Representatives that's in your community and asking him, why are you not reaching out to entrepreneurs so we can open up a black owned grocery store? Because other communities have these things. You go into other communities throughout the city of Chicago, other communities, they have grocery stores, they have dry cleaners, they have everything. And other people come to our neighborhoods and sell their goods and go back home. Guess what? Again, to quote the great Dr. Claude Anderson in a book called Powernomics, they're living off two incomes, their communal incomes and the community from our incomes. It's this joke that goes around social media all the time. Now, one time that your grandmom, if you over 40, your grandmama never made you tacos. Guess what? You know why? Because she was buying stuff from in her community. And is there anything wrong with eating tacos? I love tacos. I love Mexican food. But I'm not saying don't go get them, but I'm just trying to understand it. Why is it that everybody eats off us and we don't go into other communities? We don't sell things to other people. We are true Americans because nothing is being made in America and we go buy everybody else's stuff. But what we have to do is, like the communities, I always hear, shout out to the Latino brothers and sisters. I always hear, we need to be more like the Latino community. And we do. And we do. We really do. And we need to be more like the Asian communities. And we need to be more like the Jewish communities. But guess what? The Latino community, they're getting their head kicked in too. So how about this? We copy that blueprint, start selling goods in our community, working together in our communities. And then guess what? We can buy our politicians just like those white folks do, just like the Asian folks do, just like the Jewish folks do. You don't see a whole lot of other people at the polls real hard. That's why they focus on your community so much. It's the poor white people, like the poor Latino people, and the black people in the polls. But all three of those communities, I'm assuming, just an assumption, we ain't standing on these people's heads. And some of these Latino brothers and sisters, like I'm around my man Big Illinois crib, they getting schools built, they getting art programs built, and things of that nature. But we ain't doing it because we ain't standing on our elected officials' heads. You know, I've watched for my entire 36 years being an adult. I've watched I watched my senior year in high school, Harold Washington died. November of my senior year in high school. The very next year, Gene Sawyer, and everybody was Gene Sawyer was the worst man in the world. Gene Sawyer makes me sick. He's the white man's dog. I actually heard somebody say that. And then Richard Daley was the mayor. Didn't hear those same people complain at all. Richard Daley was the mayor until he didn't want to be the mayor anymore. Richard Daley sold the parking meters in my city for 100 years. You know, I think we got like 85 years to go. The parking meters. Do you know what type of revenue parking meters generate in a massive city like the city of Chicago, Illinois? He sold them. He lived in Florida with his black girlfriend. And he come from one of the most racist parts of the city. And I ain't hear nobody complain about him. And Rahm Emanuel was the mayor till he didn't want to be anymore. And I ain't hearing all my brothers and sisters complain about him. Rahm Emanuel literally tried to shake my hand when then I pushed it out the way. You don't believe me? Next time you see the name Chris Reinhardt in the chat room, ask him. This is a fact. Because get out of my face, man. You don't do nothing for us. And then Sister Lori Lightfoot got in there. Everybody, they blamed it. I got a homeboy who blamed the mayor of Chicago for something that's been going on since the 70s. This dude ain't even 40. He ain't even 50 years old. How you talk about the 70s to a dude who was born in the 80s? But he sure blamed him. And this ain't somebody who just ignorant, don't know. This dude is insanely intelligent. I'm like, how you blaming him for that? And that's been going on through two Mayor Daley's, a Mayor Belandic, a Mayor Byrne, a Mayor Washington, a Mayor Sawyer, a Mayor, and another Mayor Daley, Emmanuel and Lightfoot, and you're gonna blame this new mayor for that. See, these are the things that I'm talking about. We're not taking the proper actions to get things done. Group economics. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna start shopping with each other and going out of our way to shop with each other. And if you get shoddy service, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take down the phone number. You're not gonna cut a fool right there. You're gonna take down the phone number, and you and your friends gonna call and say they're not acting properly in your restaurant, in your grocery store, in your whatever establishment. That's what we're gonna start doing. And then we're going to build relationships with Black-owned business owners, and we're going to make them hold up the proper standards so we can support them. And we should support them. Then we're going to do the same thing with our elected officials. We're going to get into these conference situations because I'm in the group text and I don't even know 90% of the people in it. Shout out to my man Percy, a dude who give me health information, but I'm in there with like 60 people and I get like 60 good morning texts. And I'm like, I don't even know these people. That annoys me to no end, but I still haven't asked to be removed. But what we're going to do is this. We're going to start off small. West side of Chicago, everybody in Chicago points at the west side of Chicago and call it dirty, filthy. I mean, it's crazy over there. But you know what? When that Democratic National Convention was right down the street, you know what they did? They cleaned up the west side. I ain't seen the west side this clean in my life. When they wanted to impress the world, guess what they did? They cleaned up the west side. State representative lived a half a block away. He works a half a block away from me. How is it that y'all throwing a back to school program next weekend and the kids already back in school? What? See, we need to be complaining about that. We need to be complaining about that. And guess what? It needs to be 100 of us. Every time we see something go wrong, act the fool. That's what, another way you can start being a pawn nationwide. I know a lot of us, we love these holidays coming up. But what we need to start doing is celebrating birthdays and do like my man Big Illinois family do. They have a family dinner and all their relatives in the city come to that dinner. And they do it like once every quarter. They invite me all the time. I'm family. And they family to me. But this is what we need to do. We need, next time somebody get hurt, like the sister down there in Springfield, Illinois, 200 miles away from here, 150 miles away from here, what we need to do is X off Halloween from the national Black national holiday list. Somebody else get hurt, we ain't celebrating Thanksgiving no more. And we ain't celebrating Christmas no more. We ain't doing no more back to school stuff. We're gonna systematically celebrate people in our community, shopping with people in our community, and make those holidays family days so we can reconnect. Just shout out to my cousins who threw my grandmother. Y'all know who y'all are. I ain't finna name all y'all. Y'all watch. But we gonna start doing that. And when we start doing that, we will rebuild relationships. And then when you build those relationships, they will have complaints about their communities. And then when you have a complaint in your community, we're going to get 100 people to call a state representative and say, this is what's wrong. And then we're going to call 100 of us going to call all these state representatives. That's how you get things done. Because when you start complaining about the things that are going on en masse, they get scared. Again, to quote an elected official, if 10 people call my office, I'll be overwhelmed. And I've been in the office with some of these people. They ain't got but like 3 people. If 100 of us come call and make the same complaint, they'll get scared. And if they get scared, they're going to get into action. If they get into action, guess what happens? Things get done. But we are not scaring them. They are extremely comfortable. And people always complain about us signing up with one party and only standing with another party. This video I'm about to show you will show you exactly why you're in that situation. This HRAP, this is Build and Destroy. I'll be back in about 8 minutes. Watch this video. I'll be back shortly.
Have you ever wondered why Black Americans vote so heavily Democratic? And today we're going to talk about it. If you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so on my Buy Me Coffee Patreon page in the description below. But without further ado, let's get started. Well, from 1877 to 1960, the Democratic Party held a virtually unchallenged grip on the politics of the South in a period known as the Solid South. This control would begin to loosen as the Democratic Party would gradually shift its position on Black civil rights. 1964 to 1994, the South underwent a gradual transition from the Democratic Party to a Republican stronghold. Democrats and Republicans in the past were not as ideologically unified as they appear today. There was a time when there were conservative Democrats, especially in the South, and liberal Republicans. During the 1930s, Franklin Roosevelt created the New Deal coalition in his efforts to combat the Great Depression, unifying labor unions, rural Southerners, and different minority groups under a collective force to support his agenda. His administration even recruited some liberal Republicans to that coalition, resulting in the formation of the Black Cabinet, which was a group of Black leaders who served as policy advisors to the president. Simultaneously, a conservative coalition emerged, consisting of conservative Democrats, especially in the South, and some conservative Republicans. These two coalitions remained active into the 1960s, prompting some Southern Democrats to switch over to the Republican Party. This dynamic led to a more progressive Democratic establishment in conflict with the conservative Southern voting bloc in matters such as race and social welfare. After the 1948 presidential election, President Harry Truman made an explicit appeal to new civil rights measures before Congress, including voting rights protections, a federal ban on lynching, and bolstering civil rights laws. Because of this, he faced a break from Southern Democrats who formed a states' right Democratic Party under Southern Governor Strom Thurmond. Strom Thurmond's ticket won almost 1 million votes and 39 electoral votes taken in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and South Carolina. Nonetheless, Harry Truman was successful in winning the election with 77% of the Black vote, and the number of African Americans identifying as Democrats would progressively increase. This surge of Black solidarity for the Democratic Party led to an electoral advantage for the party and the implementation of racially progressive policies. This shift caused white segregationists to consider a third-party presidential bid, indicating they were searching for a new political home. This exhibited some of the first major weakenings of the Solid South. And in the 1952 and 1956 election, Dwight Eisenhower's GOP began to make further inroads into the South. Southern Democrats were instrumental in the segregationist movement opposing Black civil rights during this period. Virginia Governor Harry Byrd established the Massive Resistance Campaign to combat school desegregation, and 99 Southern Democrats endorsed the Declaration of Constitutional Principles that was the Southern Manifesto, an objection to desegregation initiative. Strom Thurmond ran an individual filibuster of the 1957 Civil Rights Act, which lasted over 24 hours, and notable segregationist figures such as George Wallace of Alabama and Ross Barnett were both Southern governors. During the 1960 election, Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy had similar perspectives on civil rights. Nixon garnered almost a third of the African American vote, but it's important to realize that majority of African Americans resided in the South where they could not exercise their right to vote. Also during the 1960 election, frustrated Southern electors from 14 states that had cast their ballots for John F. Kennedy during the presidential election declined to cast their vote for him, instead voting for Harry Byrd, who wasn't even a candidate. This election marked the last time a presidential candidate was able to receive more than 15% of the African American vote. In 1968, the presidential election saw another major shift into the South as the region continued to abandon the Democratic Party. Only Texas, the home state of Democratic nominee Hubert Humphrey, voted for him in this election. George Wallace, running on a campaign of only white supremacy for the American Independent Party, was successful in gaining 10 million votes and 46 electoral votes in 5 southern states: Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. After 1968, the South would continue to support Republican candidates, voting for Richard Nixon in 1972, Ronald Reagan in 1980 and 1984, and Bush in 1988. Meanwhile, African Americans were already heavily voting for Democrats. At no point after 1936 did a Republican candidate get more than 45% of the Black vote. The GOP would then employ the Southern strategy to capitalize on racial tensions and gain a crucial foothold in the South. This strategy, developed by political strategist Kevin Phillips and implemented in Richard Nixon's election campaign in 1968 and 1972. See, in 1965, the enfranchisement of Black voters in the South and the strong support of the Democratic Party caused conservative white Southerners to lean even further towards the Republican Party. Additionally, the party began to use coded language such as law and order and states' rights to target conservative white Southerners who were resentful of the racial integration and fearful of urban unrest. Despite this, many Southern Democrats still won state and congressional elections, most significantly less dramatic election for governor in Georgia in 1966. However, the progressive and multiracial Democratic Party establishment, coupled with the successes of Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan's administration, gradually moved conservative politicians in the South more towards the Republican Party. This all culminated in the Republican Revolution in 1994, when the South became a firmly Republican region. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party strengthened its bond with black voters, leading to groundbreaking establishments such as the election of Douglas Wilder as the first black governor in the United States. Even Jesse Jackson's two unsuccessful presidential campaigns in 1984 and 1988 were instrumental in producing the necessary amendments to the Democratic Party's platform, further increasing the number of black representatives, mayors, and other elected officials. As a result of all of this, identity politics has now become fully entangled with partisanship. The Republican Party is now attracting more white voters than ever, while black voters have become increasingly connected to the Democratic Party. Thank you. This has been One Mike Black History. Like stories like this, you can find more stories like this on MikeHistory.com. Also, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Thank you for tuning in. This is your man, Brian H. B. Williams. This is Building Detroit on the End of the Bench Media. Now, as I was stating, you saw the history of the Republican Party, who used to be all about progressiveness, and you see the Democratic Party, who used to be in accordance to segregation, and then they switched places. And as you see, this is why a lot of our people vote in one direction. For those people that say, well, why must we always vote this way? I'm gonna break it down very fast. I don't think we need to. I don't even think we need to ride with any party. I understand that Lyndon Baines Johnson at one point signed the Civil Rights Act, and before that he signed the Voters' Rights Act, and those things have been stripped down to almost nothing under the Democratic regime and under a Republican hailstorm of power from the Republican Party. This is why we don't need to do. We already know that. Well, we assume that the Democratic Party are not going to do anything. My personal opinion is we haven't asked them to do anything, but that's neither here nor there. But when you look at Richard Milhouse Nixon from 68 to 73, when the Watergate thing jumped off, right? Guess what? This is who instituted the war on drugs. How did that work out for you? A bunch of brothers and sisters and going to jail and being hooked on drugs, because at that point, heroin and barbiturates were moved into our community at an alarming pace. And we were partying, and we were in the 70s, we were partying, and integration was the order of the day. So they slipped it up under our nose, and they did away with things like Black Panther Party of self-defense and other institutions with Mike Africa in Philadelphia and other institutions that were building up the community from border to border, coast to coast, right? So now if the war on drugs starts under Nixon, the next phase of that was Ronald Wilson Reagan and George H.W. Bush. Guess what? That's the R&B era. Nothing to do with music. Reagan and Bush. What happened with them? That's all of a sudden Freeway Rick Ross and other people throughout the United States of America. And over on the East Coast, you had Rayful Edmonds, you had Freeway Rick Ross, you had Fat Cat, and those dudes up in New York, and I'm quite sure throughout the South, you had some other dudes, Felix the Cat out of Oakland, so forth and so on. All of a sudden, crack cocaine was the order of the day, the price on cocaine, and then somebody saw people the music programs, the vocations were taken out of schools and things of that nature. And guess what? Again, when you're left with nothing, you might be up to anything to survive. You're in survival mode. That survival mode created what is known at this point as the crack epidemic. You even had your former president, George Herbert Walker Bush, sit on TV with a kilo of crack cocaine talking about, we just picked up this right outside, but you put the cocaine and the dope in the streets. So let's not even get into that. Then next thing, you got your man, Bill Clinton and current president Joe Biden. They helped construct the crime bill that put more people in jail than were on slave ships on their way to the Western Hemisphere. Then you got Bush, who crashed the economy, and bang, here we are. We've been stuck in limbo, up and down, left and right with these two parties. This is why we need to create our own situation. When white nationalists who are in control of this country and who are working in this country and fool enough to believe that rich people have their backs, when they realized Barack Hussein Obama was elected president, what did they do? They created what is known as the Tea Party. And the Tea Party was headed up by one guy who was one of the most powerful senators in the United States of America. His name is Raphael Cruz, commonly known as Ted Cruz. His name is not Theodore. His name is Raphael. He's in Texas. And if you don't think Texas is a powerful state, how about this? Texas has the 5th largest economy on earth. Yes, earth, not in America, not in the Western Hemisphere. Texas makes more money than a few than most countries on earth. That's what I'm saying. So if I am one of the most powerful people in an economy that is the fifth largest on earth, then that's how you create the Tea Party. And you get this dude at the top of the food chain in the Tea Party. And if you don't want to pay attention to these things, you must pay attention to these things. This is why we keep lulling ourselves to sleep. So why don't we create something? Again, hold your nose. Shout out to Karen Hunter. Hold your nose. Vote for somebody who you may or may not like, but you cannot vote for a white nationalist. I tell you that. But do what you want to do. Do what you feel is best for your younger people in your family. But again, we do what we have to do at this point, and then let's activate and come and galvanize and come together and create our own party. Much like they did the Tea Party, we can create the We Party or the Party of Us or the Working Class Party. You saw in that video when people like Strom Thurmond and other people didn't like what was going on in the Democratic and the Republican Party. You see these hate mongering people created their own situation so they could do what they wanted to do, and it was mildly successful, and it was even more successful now. And you can see things like even in the great state of South Carolina State University, who was making millions and millions upon dollars off Black women, young women, and a woman by the name of Dawn Staley. They have a white nationalist group who are doing a roast of Vice President Kamala Harris, and they're spelling her name Kamala Harris, insulting another Black woman, and we standing around and allowing it. This is what leads me to what my major point tonight. What we have to do is start checking people for getting in Black folks' business and disrespecting our men, women, children, and elders. We're going to have, look, if you get in Black business, we're going to make you pay. No more of this foolishness about, well, he did make some sense. Now, we can't talk about how somebody's making sense while they insult our community. I don't care if they're right. You don't know you right because you standing on the outside. You don't know what's going on in my life. As far as you know, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm straight, I'm gay, I'm fat, I'm skinny, I'm tall, I'm short. You don't know anything about what's going on with me. All you know is I come on every Tuesday and that's it and that's all. So don't stand on the outside. Pay attention to some of your Black friends and then judge my community from the outside. Michael Rubin sitting on programs like Charlamagne the Clown and DJ Envy. Y'all sitting up letting this man insult our community that we feel with hate. The hate on hate, the Black on Black hate has to stop. Dude, do not watch TV, movies, and listen to music and talk about how we hate each other. Don't you hang out with Meek Mills? I don't care, because you know what? You making money on the backs of Black athletes. We need, if you support fanatics, I need everybody who Black who support fanatics that never support it again. And we need to start watching Charlamagne the Clown and DJ M because they're toxic. They would rather make us look bad and get a bunch of clicks and a bunch of views on the video so people can argue on social media and they can argue in the barbershop and things of that nature than to protect our good names in the Black community. It is time for that to stop. Somebody else, Joe Rogan, you're comfortable enough to try to throw dirt on Will Smith's name. Again, remember how I said polls don't tell you what's going on in the community, they shape the community. He tried to shape the community by throwing dirt on our brother Will Smith's name. Will Smith has been around for just as long as I've been an adult, or even a little longer. We talking about 38 years we've known who Will Smith is, and as far as we know, publicly and outside of his home, he's made one mistake, and that is to strike the brother Chris Rock. Whether he's right or wrong, he shouldn't have struck that brother. It worked, on the old sticks and stones situation. But you know what? That's one mistake he made. That's what Will Smith's music is uplifting. It's fun. It's feel good. Everything he's done has been uplifting, fun, and feel good. His movies, he's recording his movies with Tyler Perry. That means he's shopping with Black people. He's exercising Black economics. And because he's doing those kinds of things, you want Will Smith's name to disappear. No, we're not gonna make Will Smith's name disappear, and that's why we went and shopped with him. And a lot of us went and seen that movie Bad Boys 3 or 4, whatever it is, because you are not gonna take our celebrities and talk about how horrible they are. And Bill Cosby is a rapist, and Will Smith. Look, that's our business. We don't talk about Roman Polanski, who y'all let skate out of the country after molesting children. We don't talk about Prince William, who was married to the Queen of England, about how he and Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and Bill Clinton were all on that child molestation potentially island. I mean, I don't know if you hanging around child molesters. I just can't see you not being one. Now I hang out with marijuana smokers and I ain't smoking none. But guess what? That ain't hurt nobody. If I know you are, like, to quote your former president Donald J. Trump, I know Jeffrey likes him young, but he's still a cool guy. If you like him young, it's a problem. If you dating somebody, I got a daughter who's gonna be 27 years old and shit. She should walk up in the crib, or if she introduced me to a clown that's my age, I'm punching that joke in his mouth. Period. And I know I just said Will Smith shouldn't have hit dude, but Will Smith ain't dating my daughter. Back to the point. If we are letting people attack people in our community, we are on the wrong page. If you come to us with the smoke, do not grade my community, don't judge my community, don't talk about my community if I can't talk about yours. If we're not going to talk about everything, we ain't going to talk about anything. We must stop allowing people like the Candace Owens and the Jason Whitlocks and the Jesse Lee Ham. We need to stop talking about them. Look, the only people that pay attention to those people are us, because we tune in to see what they're gonna say next. Just watch them see what he's gonna say. Oh, he makes me sick. If we start paying attention and we start reacting, they would disappear. The only reason they know is it's a lot of trauma in this community, it's a lot of pain in this community, a lot of anguish in this community, and they know it, and they exploit us for it. We must do away with these people who race bait us into angry situations, and then they take advantage of our anger and dismay. What we have to do is walk away from people who are not on the team. If you are not Team Williams, if you are not team anybody adjacent to me, then you can't, I'm not talking to and or about you. We must stop allowing people, hey, well, when I think of Will Smith, I think about the slap. When I think about Will Smith, I think about Enemy of the State. I think about Bad Boys. I think about the Fresh Prince. I laugh and joke with my hip hop buddies and say Will Smith and the Fresh Prince are two different people. Will Smith is the actor, Fresh Prince is the rapper. So that's what I think about when I think about Will Smith. But you know what? When I think about other people, when I think about Jeffrey Epstein, when I think about Kevin Spacey, why don't everybody talk about them? Because guess what? Will Smith struck one brother. Kevin Spacey allegedly sexually assaulted multiple men. Jeffrey Epstein and his little crew of people, they were sexually assaulting potentially dozens upon dozens of young women. Well, we're going to talk about Will Smith? No, we're not talking about Will Smith. We're going to talk about the hate non-community. Give me 1 year in your life where you turned on the news and want somebody at war in Europe. Really? Don't talk to me about this nonsense, man. You got people who have taken over and the largest land mass on earth called Africa. They colonized it. You can't colonize somebody with a debate. You got to shoot, kill, rape, and steal. Your people raped my ancestral men and ancestral women. So if we're gonna talk about Will Smith, no, we're not talking about none of it. You're gonna talk about black on black hate. What about your hate on the world? So we're not gonna allow people to talk about us anymore. And last and most importantly, I want y'all to know about this. The United States Constitution is written by a group of men who said all men are created equal. It was this brother in the 1850s by the name of Dred Scott. If you don't know, the laws in the United States of America, some states were free, some states were enslavement states. If you stayed in a free state, like a sister by the name of Ona Judge, who was the person who landed on the plantation that she lived on, this dude by the name of George Washington. Him and her used to correspond because he used to move his enslaved people from plantation to plantation, because if you stayed in a free state, Philadelphia, where the original White House sits, if you stayed in that state too long, those people were supposed to be free. A brother by the name of Dred Scott and his wife would move from Wisconsin to Illinois all the time, and Wisconsin and Illinois were free states at that time. So they went to the United States Supreme Court and said, hey, we supposed to be free because we in free states. If you was in there longer than 30 days, you got your freedom. So these people call the National Association of Republican Assemblies, they are trying to say, you ready for this? They're trying to use that Dred Scott decision because that decision was denied. They said, no, Dred, you are going to continue to be enslaved because you are property. Because, and he quoted, all men are created equal. And you know how they love the founders of this country. They were perfect men. They knew everything. Yeah. So, well, guess what? They were not perfect. And they said, look, Dred, yeah, they said that, but you're black. So that means you're less than human. You're property. And these people, and it's what is it called again? The National Association of Republicans, Republican Assemblies, they're saying that the fact that the Dred Scott decision was shot down in 1853, prior to the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, prior to the Emancipation Proclamation, was shot down. That means that reduced people who were not born here. If you're not, we're going to go back to the originalists. That's what another group of white nationalists are called, the originalists. And those people say, hey, if you're not, the Constitution clearly states, if you're not a natural citizen, you can't be here. So seeing how our Sister Harris and this lady named Rada Haley, she goes by the name of Nikki Haley because she's trying to assimilate, and this dude Ramaswamy, they can't even run for office according to these people. So they're trying to take our sister name off the ballot. And oh man, she not one of us. Well, why are they trying to treat her like they treat you? See, you keep getting caught up in what white nationalists say. Meanwhile, while you were dumb enough to argue about the same thing you argued about 16 years ago with our brother Barack Hussein Obama, you falling for the same banana in the tailpipe. They're trying to use a law that was enacted in 1853 to knock this lady off the ballot. They are in federal courts right now. Your vote don't count. Guess what? Guess who packed the federal court? The last time they had a woman running for a leader of this country, and they told you, look what she said back in 1992. And now they're telling you, look what Kamala Harris did when she was the Attorney General of the state of California. She locked up 1,469 black men. And guess what? Show me another state in which you can be arrested on felony charges. And if you go get your GED, your record will be expunged. That's the part of that whole locked up a whole lot of black men that they're not telling you about. See, again, you let people who hate you shape your opinions. Look, stop being a pawn. That's the end of it. Stop being a pawn. These people are attacking you at every stage of the game. If you don't, oh man, we don't want all this, we don't want the LGBTQ and these transgenders to get the right medical treatment. Guess what? If you discriminate against one group of people, that means you can discriminate against everybody. All you have to do is look at World War II. They made the Jewish people look like heathens, and then they got rid of the Ethiopian Jews and they got rid of the gypsies. So if you get rid of the transgenders and the people who you're dumb enough to discriminate against, who migrated here, and we all came here some way, shape, or form, most of us came here in some way, shape, form, or fashion, guess what? You're next. Are they going to make our kids gay? If watching gay stuff made you gay, it wouldn't be any gay people in the world because 90% of the people on television and movies are straight. So how did they turn gay? Don't worry about what's going on in somebody else's house. Clean your house out first. With that being said, I want to continue to thank you guys for the support of the program every week. I am expanding my platform very soon. I'm going to get back in I always say that every year, though. I say that every September. I'm going to get back into sports, but this time I'm going to do it. And I'm expanding into a couple other projects that me and my man Big Mo working on. I want to thank the people who inspired me: Willie D, Nori, Talib Kweli, Zoe Williams, Sway Calloway, Roland Martin, Al Sharpton, Heather B, Super Dope Brother Clay Kane, my personal favorite, Reed Daniel favorites, Lamont King, and Dr. Greg Carr, and Karen Hunter. These are the people who that inspire me. Hopefully, I will continue to inspire you. Thank you for tuning in. I am H-Rap-B. This is the End of the Bench Media. It is a pleasure talking to you on a weekly basis. I'm going to be speaking a little more, having a whole lot more fun. Y'all always know what I say. 2 fingers, 1 word. And if you don't like what I said today,
you better shut your white mouth. I'm not kidding you.
and Big Mo, I'm out.
We lust for that cheese, we lose sleep, dreams of that cream. We killing our teens, they down for this American dream. Them government schemes, they turning us to hustlers and fiends. We hustling trees, them politicians smuggling green. Chasing that cheese, got everybody stressed in the streets. Pardon me for speaking freely, let it breathe. Evangelists preach the congregations out of their seats. They writing them checks for ties, now it's people can't eat. She stripping for change for school, now she giving them brains. She used to that loot, she earning, now she giving them strain. He new to this game, but hungry, so he cooking his cane. He getting that paper, but then they gave him two to the brain. There's rules to this game, but hustlers never hustle for fame. The spirit of greed is grimy, so we struggle to change. They put us in chains to take away our African names. But if we submissive and don't resist, then who do we blame? It's all a game, man. These Europeans thinking they claim, and you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't, you thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang? Killed our women and our children, all our leaders are slain. They gave us Obama, but that nigga was hoping for change. But Zimmerman is killing niggas and he free. Shit is crazy, babies having these babies and getting checked. But keep the child from they pop to rip his heart out his chest. Our rappers was leaders and now they in the booth in the dress. Spitting bullshit and making more but giving us less. They taking our sound and changing ours, dumbing it down. They taking our jobs and homes and they shutting us out. They taking our kids because it ain't a man in the house. They locking us down, but soon they gon' be wiping us out. They told our women they was too independent to need a man. They told our brother he was too insignificant to advance. It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim, and you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't, you thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang? Killed our women and our children, all our leaders are slain. It's all a game.